This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/Mapper Forward to find out how you can become a member today. Ahmad Aleidan, welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward. It is a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's an awesome opportunity for us to present tea. I hope so.
Inshallah, as we say in Arabic. Ahmed, this is a podcast that goes out to countries like America and Australia and Europe and a lot of English-speaking countries in the specialty coffee industry. Most people will not have seen you because you're not actually in specialty coffee, you're in specialty tea, right?
Sure.
So
Right.
the reason I wanted to invite you onto the podcast is because we often talk in specialty coffee cafes about how important it is to offer the best quality specialty coffee. And there's this other thing that we serve that's specialty tea, which most customers look at it as though it's just hot water with a tea bag. But from all the things that I understand about specialty tea, there are some similarities and some parallels between the challenges experienced in the supply chain with specialty tea as there are with specialty coffee. And I thought, who better to have on the podcast than you after I have seen the episodes that are going to be coming out on the Middle East podcast between you and Sara Al-Ali. And so welcome. And tell everybody, to kick us off, what Bayan Tea is, which is your company, and everything we need to know about who you are.
Great. Thank you for having me again. My name is Ahmad Aleidan. I'm from Kuwait, and I'm proud owner of a brand called Bayan Tea. Bayan is a company that provides culture, education, building bridges between the Middle East and the tea-producing countries, so the leading tea-producing countries in the world, focusing more on the Far Eastern tea, mainly China, Japan, Taiwan, and that side of Asia that produces as let's say a pinnacle type of tea that we might not be exposed as much as we desire or wish, focusing on the Middle East. Initially, Bayan Tea was created with an Arabic influence. Bayan means in Arabic as in clarity. And we're trying to provide tea in a market that is saturated with ready-to-drink products that are sugary, that are artificially infused with other, say, fruit-like tastes and profiles, and try to produce something of an insight of true tea, especially that we are heavily influenced with the English standard of tea and the tea that comes in from Ceylon and Sri Lanka and from India. So what the purpose of Bayan Tea is to speak Arabic, to focus on the Arab community. We are considered heavy drinkers of tea. Tea is considered to be an integral part of our social element. We do have tea with our surrounding friends, surrounding families, surrounding special events, specific parts of the day, after the meals, before you start your work. It's a very, very essential commodity in our area. So it's a similar challenge, I believe, to all the other, say, Eastern and Western hemisphere, let's say. The challenges that we faced most likely is what we are currently facing locally, as well as maybe more or less globally, if I could speak loosely. It's that we are not entirely grasping the entire idea of how tea is and how tea is made and how tea is presented. This comes to us as a part of an education cycle before that we actually serve those teas. Bayan Tea has been active since 2017. We've been traveling not as much as we want since 2000, since the pandemic, let's say, and hopefully we can kickstart our activities as soon as the lead countries, let's say Taiwan and China and Japan, let's say come back to the let's say an easy flow for travelers instead of having the quarantine. There are some still countries that we're facing that we have to stay within extensive amount of time in quarantine hotels. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
why we're not there yet. Yes.
So Bayan Tea sources and sells tea within the Middle East, correct?
Yes. We do provide educational programs, awareness programs, activities, social interaction sessions, introducing the range of, let's say, tea that the world has to offer, in addition to whatever is common, in addition to catering, private events, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to uh, participating in workshops of awarenesses, as well as sourcing a specific type of tea quality
Mm-hmm.
that differentiates ourselves on the market. We consider to focus on pinnacle teas, let's say, true tea and high quality that has a transparency, say, within the chain, supply chain from the start to the beginning. We tend to have majority of our teas are directly sourced, although there are some people who are in between that are more of interpreters than actually resellers.
Mm-hmm.
So we strive to get our teas from the families who are actually the owners of the tea garden themselves.
Right. So you've set up my question for this episode perfectly, sir. Perfectly. Like within coffee, we have two main categories of the way coffee is purchased. It's either purchased on the commodity market or it's specialty grade coffee that's more likely to be traded directly with farmers or producers. Does specialty tea have the same kind of differentiation between commodity grade coffee and specialty grade coffee as is in the coffee industry? And is there the separation in the way that it's traded?
Well, it is as similar as it comes with coffee. There are
Okay.
specific gardens and communities and mega corporations that are focused on providing a certain level of quality that will be sent directly to the mass market,
Mm-hmm.
let's say hypermarkets, supermarkets, and where it will be accessible for a very acceptable price range that they're happy with, which is volume market. And you see, the wonderful thing about the plant itself, it's an evergreen tree. So it
Mm-hmm.
will continue to grow. You will be having harvest within the next, if you're situated well enough, let's say with as similar geographic location as the coffee belt would be.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be having a flush to harvest every average, let's say every 20 days. So
Wow.
that's why you focus on Ceylon and India, subtropical countries that are, let's say, situated finally within that area of the world that can produce tea constantly. So the process there is to have fresh cut tea, processed tea, and delivered to the market in an average of 20 days throughout the year. So that such demand is there, such considering that tea is that's number two drinking commodity worldwide, and that's why it's attainable in the market. You can find a box of tea bags or a box of loose leaf tea anywhere in the world. Is considered to be one of the necessary items in any household. That's why it's
Mm-hmm.
there. Majority of the world do not tax tea because
Right.
it's considered to be
A
a main
staple.
commodity as yeah, exactly. So
So do we
the
have in
market,
tea? Sorry. Do we have in
yes,
tea a separation between what we consider to be specialty tea and
yes,
commodity grade tea?
yes. Most likely, what we consider to be specialty is different than what the organizations that we have. In coffee, you have
Ah,
the Specialty Tea Association, Specialty Coffee Association, which is
yep.
morely focused on creating standards and building up an understanding when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to agriculture, and when it comes to quality delivery. Um,
Ish.
that won't be the necessary.
Ish. I want
Yes,
to,
yes,
let's be very clear there. that's sort of what they think, what they give people the perception that they're doing. And I correct this every time it happens on the podcast. The SCA, for anybody who's listening, and we're trying to get a clear answer from them for what they do. As far as we know, the SCA is a trade organization. They are not here to establish standards. They are not here to do anything like that for our industry. And Yanis has agreed to come on the podcast, the CEO, to discuss this at length. But and this is where I wonder, and I will let you finish there, but do you have an association in tea that is setting those standards for you guys?
This is it. This is what I don't like to rely on standards. I don't like to rely on organizations. I'm considered to be, let's say, a self-proclaimed rebel, if you did you say?
You are in good company, my friend.
I believe that such an organization will definitely have its own agenda on the business itself.
100%.
And it's only when you come to dedicate your mindset and get yourself into this business and start believing in what you're doing and start to get a little bit obsessed with it, that you'll be having enough of a palette library, of a mindset, of an understanding of what tea is. Then you'll be starting to develop the quality differentiation. You would see if you go, let's say we can all agree that if we're going to go and look about the market, yes, we do have commodity, we do have specialty. How do we go by looking at commodity? Well, it's whatever available from the same quality, from same standards, that's continuously been delivered to the mass market in a very, very, very affordable price. However, there are no code of ethics clear. There is no focus on the farming community as much. There is much more of a capital approach on tea. And when you go and look at how specialty or true tea that we focus on is more of a family-oriented inherited business that focuses on a specific production time, that are looking for specific cultivars, specific methods of cultivation, and as well as talent in producing such tea. And most likely they are seasonal teas. So we'll be having tea that comes in a green tea format that will come in April. We'll be focusing on red tea that comes in on May on the way to August, and we're looking for fall teas that are within those parameters. So we do have tea coming in throughout the year in different times, and each time is dedicated to a specific type of tea, cultivar, part of the world. And we have a transparency, a clear chain of logistics, let's say, or a process that we know exactly it was picked on that day, it was packed on this day, and will be delivered finally on that other part time of the year itself. So we know there are some good seasons. We know we'll be having a bad season. There are elements involved that can contribute to the quality of tea itself. We definitely would sit down and talk about, oh yes, we had such and such and such of tea that happened to be excellent in 2021. I don't think within the current situation, current environment and ecosystem that we're having, or the weather or the drought that we're going to face, will not be promising for having the same tea this year. So such things do happen.
Now, as we wrap up this episode, what I wanted to ask you is there like in specialty coffee, we loosely say that we differentiate the difference between specialty and commodity grade coffee with a number. We say anything that's 80 and above is considered to be specialty grade. Do you have any such markers in tea?
Let's say when it comes to commodity, they do. They build it up by their quality team, but it's not an organization based. You see, this is a quality associations or groups that come in. The QA graders will come in, they'll have their cup, and they will give it a score. That will not be the case when it comes to specialty tea. When it comes to specialty is that there are some competitions that will be focusing on communities and focusing on the production of the tea itself that would give it the quality. However, we go and evaluate it from a very different approach, and it's specifically depending on the person who's going to purchase that lot of tea.
Okay, Great.
So Asians, let's say Far East Asians, will not consider having their lives depending on organizations as much as I saw.
I'm not surprised. So we're going to wrap up this episode, and in the next episode, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the different regions of tea and the different kinds of tea that we tend to lean into in the specialty coffee industry and the kinds of teas. Because Sara Al-Ale, for anyone who wants to see the beautiful way that Bayan teas can be served in a cafe, go to the Instagram page of that cafe in Saudi Arabia and you will see the stunning ways that this tea can be served to customers. I mean, it's just phenomenal, isn't it, Ahmed?
It's amazing.
She's amazing. Anyway, we'll see everybody in the next episode. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.